Hello, folks. I'm Josh McGee, and welcome to another episode of the Gateway to Soccer Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I am back. I know it's been a while since I last posted my previous episode with that Sam Fink interview. Of course, I've been very busy here with my new job in Fayette, but I was actually able to come home briefly this past weekend. I was up to a few things, and I thought, you know what? Let me put together a brand new episode for you all. I know it's been a while. Hope everyone is doing okay, of course, back home in St. Louis. And, of course, if you're watching from outside of St. Louis as well, again, good to be back, at least just for this week in terms of putting out a brand new episode. It's going to be, kind of an informal type thing, quick, not as long as it usually would go. Definitely going to be under an hour here with this one, but I thought I would just give my thoughts on a few things going on in the soccer world. And, of course, like I said, last weekend I was home, did get the chance to go and cover the two academy matches between St. Louis City SC and St. Louis Scott Gallagher. Going to have some comments from one of the coaches from St. Louis Scott Gallagher on the evening as a whole. And again, just kind of give you guys that perspective that that you don't get anywhere else. So again, hope everyone has been doing okay. In terms of me here, calling matches for Upper Iowa, of course, I do a lot of sports here for the Peacocks. I do 9 sports play-by-play wise, and I also provide color commentary for football. Fall sports have pretty much wrapped up here on campus. I was very blessed here in my first year to see some pretty good seasons from both men's and women's soccer. The women's team, they got out to a quick 5-0 start, ran into a little bit of trouble in conference play, but there were a lot of great moments, a few comeback victories involved there that made it a pretty solid season, at least very much a bounce-back season for them. On the men's side, I got to see them win their first ever conference victory in the GLIAC conference. And of course, they continue to go on. They reached double-digit wins. They made the postseason tournament, but unfortunately were eliminated in the first round. But still a historic season for them, and I got to witness it firsthand. Also, again, just kind of really cool to see the connections in the game of soccer, just, either back home from St. Louis, other places I've been. Funny enough, one of the players on Upper Iowa actually played for the Green Bay Voyagers USL2 team this past summer. Of course, they came to St. Louis at one point to play St. Louis Scott Gallagher. And again, I didn't know at the time, but I was watching someone that I would go on to call here his matches as his final season as a senior. So again, it's a small world, but I've been doing great. Really excited. Winter sports are coming up. I'll be doing men's and women's basketball and wrestling. But again, of course, it's just been great. The decision has been vindicated already. I had to do it. Broadcasting is my first and foremost what I want to do with my career. It's been a blessing to get back to do it. I've been having a lot of fun doing it. Again, you can always check me out. I'll be on the nsicnetwork.com. Upper Iowa is part of the NSIC conference. Again, feel free to shoot me a text or say, again, that you've been watching. Just tell me what your thoughts are on the broadcast as well. We always want to continue to do better in each and every way. But still, been doing great things, but I had a little bit of time and wanted to put together this episode. I'm going to go over, pretty much in terms of from past episodes, some of the topics that I usually talk about. I'm choosing one subject from each of those topics to quickly go through here a little bit. And then, of course, we'll finish things up with the St. Louis City SC, St. Louis Scott Gallagher matches, and, of course, that interview that I was able to grab. But first, of course, wearing my U.S. men's national team jersey, that's got to be where we start. Got to talk about the big win versus Mexico, the draw versus Jamaica, and their prospects for World Cup qualification going forward. When it comes to the U.S. men's national team, I feel like everything is dissected more these days. That is, of course, a result of not qualifying for the last World Cup. Again, in terms of just some of the losses, there's been a lot of criticism, especially towards Greg Berhalter and some of the players during this World Cup qualifying campaign. But there's been a lot of positive moments. And, of course, it came to a head this past week with the 2-0 victory in Cincinnati over Mexico. Again, continuing on with what we've seen, in the CONCACAF Nations League final, in the Gold Cup final, USA completely, in the end, dominating what was their rival in terms of just they couldn't get past them in any capacity. Now, of course, we've been able to string a couple of wins together. Of course, they followed that up with the 1-1 draw in Kingston versus Jamaica. And Mikel Antonio just hit an absolute rocket, one of the best shots you will see all year round. U.S. couldn't get any offense going after Tim Weah had opened the scoring. But in my opinion, it was kind of expected considering the effort that they put into that Mexico match in order to get the full 3 points. In my opinion, a lot of optimism right now in terms of what is going on with the U.S. men's national team. We'll kind of go from back to front here. Goalkeeping-wise, you've got Zach Steffen and you've got Matt Turner, 2 informed goalkeepers. It was cool to see Zach get back in net. Made a couple of early saves, in that match that kept the U.S. in it and definitely helped out with the victory there. I don't see a problem with it. If you've got two good goalkeepers, again, that just kind of gives you backup in terms of if something were to come up with injury. If Zach, again, isn't getting enough time at Man City, you've got Turner, of course, doing great things for the Revolution. Again, it's not a bad problem to have. In terms of the defense, really stepped up versus Mexico. Again, I think we've kind of ironed down maybe the outside back spots a little bit. Anthony Robinson looked a little shaky in the early stages versus Mexico. He improved as the match went on. Of course, obviously, when Serginho Dest comes back, the offense that he can bring from that spot, he's going to be out there. Seems like Miles Robinson has nailed down maybe one of the starting center back roles. Of course, he was sent off in that match, unfortunately, by the end of it. So that's unfortunate. But in terms of just what he's been able to bring to the back line, kind of stabilize it a little bit, he might have one of those spots. And of course, then begs the question, who's going to join him potentially? We know John Brooks is out of form. We know about the pros and cons of someone like Walker Zimmerman, where you're, of course, waiting on the development of a Chris Richards to see if he can step up and take that spot. There'll be plenty of options going forward, but that's probably, honestly, the biggest question mark for the U.S. men's national team right now. It'd be great to see Brooks regain his form. It'd be great to see, Zimmerman kind of iron out his issues, be a complete center back. It'd be great to see Richards rise up and take that spot. Who knows? But that's something to look ahead going forward. In terms of the midfield, that middle three, man, of Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, and then Yunus Musa, completely dominant in that Mexico match. Of course, McKennie gets the late goal. I thought Musa honestly could have been man of the match in that game versus Mexico. He completely bossed things around, breaking up play, just leading the charge forward as well. Of course, Tyler Adams very unheralded at times in that number 6 role. But that seems to be like a pretty good, threesome there in the midfield in terms of all the facets of the game. I was very impressed with them. And of course, going forward, Ricardo Pepi has really ironed out that number 9 spot. I know, of course, being from St. Louis, Josh Sargent, we wish that he would be having those chances right now, but again, just not getting the time at Norwich City to kind of round out and get back into form. Pepe's been doing great things, and it looks like he's going to continue on in that role. Of course, you got someone like a Tim Weah. It's nice to have a healthy and informed Tim Weah back with the U.S. men's national team to provide another option going forward. And of course, again, the man in the mirror himself, Christian Pulisic, coming off the bench to score what eventually was the game-winning goal versus Mexico. I mean, it writes itself. So important to have Pulisic back just in terms of the offense that he can bring, but also the distraction in terms of sucking defenders out of their position and opening up space for others. He just brings so much to this U.S. men's national team. And again, just great banter back and forth between him and the Mexican national team after that match. So again, so many positives to look ahead in terms of qualification. We're not out of the woods yet. Of course, as you know, U.S. are only in second place in the CONCACAF standings. Got to give a salute to our neighbors up top in Canada, who currently right now are in that top spot after they beat Mexico 2-0 and just some wild conditions there up in Edmonton. Definitely took advantage of that. But of course, the likes of Alfonso Davies, Kyle Larin, doing great things there as well. Got them still on the schedule. We still got a trip to Mexico left. And of course, Costa Rica and Honduras will also provide some challenges, but still very encouraged about what the U.S. men's national team have been able to do. I know Greg Berhalter, he gets a lot of flack for some of the decisions that he makes, but in terms of just, having the team ready to play, the second halves they've been able to have, he's doing a lot of good things as well. So we got to highlight that also. But again, in terms of the schedule, it'll be tough. But right now, the way the U.S. men's national team's playing, very encouraged. We're getting guys back. We're getting the full lineup, soon to be healthy. Really excited to see that. It's a good problem to have when you've got selection decisions in terms of informed players. So again, going forward, I think that bodes well for the U.S. men's national team. Of course, always just good to put up a 2-0 on Mexico and continue that momentum here that we've seen in 2021, what has been U.S. dominance. So again, very excited. Going to continue to follow them and continue to see how they handle this path towards World Cup qualification. Okay, moving on to talk some European club soccer. Of course, there's a bunch of stuff going on right now. I don't even have time to get into the mess at Barcelona, the fact that they took too long to sack Ronald Koeman, the funk that they are currently in right now as a club. Of course, I haven't had much time to watch, like the German Bundesliga or Serie A, some of the other club soccer going on. I know Messi's had a little bit of a slow start at PSG. Of course, we got the Champions League still. There have been plenty of good matches so far, some big-time matchups to dissect there. But I want to hone in on the Premier League. Of course, that's my bread and butter in terms of what has been going on there. Of course, Chelsea at the top of the table at this moment. They need to get healthy, especially on offense. Romelu Lukaku is basically most of that goal production. I know we've seen Kai Havertz score a few goals recently, but we've just seen the offensive struggles right now with not everybody being in form. Of course, they got to get Pulisic back as well in the mix. And, when you're not scoring goals, your defense has to play perfect. And I know Chelsea's defense is good, but they can't always be perfect. That's what happened in that 1-1 draw versus Burnley. But still, they're at the top of the table. Been impressed with Mo Salah and Liverpool this season. Man City, always a threat. But a team right now that's not a threat at the moment would be one Manchester United, currently sitting 6th in the Premier League table. For those of you who follow me on Twitter, I'm pretty sure I also talked about this on a previous, Gateway to Soccer Show episode. I really did thought that Manchester United could win the Premier League. In fact, I think they were my actual official pick to win the Premier League, because you got to go back and think about the summer that they had, right? First, they get rid of Ed Woodward, who was kind of being in the way in terms of the club recruiting top players to come to Manchester United and some of the other decisions that were being made. They bring in Jadon Sancho. Honestly, possibly the best young winger in the world, or at least one of the best young wingers in the world. They bring in Rafael Varane. Honestly, probably one of the best center backs, if not the best center back in the world at times, when he's healthy at least. Then, of course, this wasn't even a part of the prediction. They bring in Cristiano Ronaldo. They bring him back to the club. They take advantage of his situation. He returns to the Premier League. All of those factors in, as of course, they had that great, opening day match. Pogba had like 4 assists or something, whatever. It was all set up for them. And now, of course, they find themselves in 6th. What is the problem? Well, of course, starts with the defense. Again, they bring in Varane, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's out again for at least a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so now. And that leaves, of course, Harry Maguire, who is 50-50 at times, honestly. He can be brilliant, in one match, and he can be absolute, crap in the next one. You got Luke Shaw, who's seen a little bit of dip in form. Wan-Bissaka, same thing as well. And they just don't have the extra depth at center back. Playing in front of them with Pogba, once again, out hurt. They don't have much quality there in the center of midfield. And then offensively, I know guys like Rashford have been in and out of the lineup, but my frustration has been, again, with Sancho. Just has never been given a chance here at the club. They pay close to 90, 100 million euros or pounds for him, and he barely even plays. So, of course, he's going to be out of form when he does actually get an opportunity. He just doesn't have the same reps as he once did. It started out with the Euros this past summer. He just never really got a chance in the English national team. So I think it's a waste of a purchase, honestly, if you're not going to play someone out wide and utilize his strengths. We've seen Bruno Fernandes, kind of be a little bit in and out of form. Ronaldo, he's not going to be perfect every game. He's getting up there in age, of course. You can't always rely on him to bang in a couple of goals. So just hasn't been really working out. Of course, the main problem has been Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Again, take it from a Chelsea fan. Just had this same problem with Frank Lampard. I know he's a club legend. He's done so much for you, not just as a player, but as an ambassador for your club. But you have got to cut ties at this time. He's dragging you down. The tactics aren't there. The motivation is not there. I mean, if it not for a couple of Ronaldo's goals and a good performance versus Tottenham, I think he would have already been gone. So at this point, you've already lost a chance to get Antonio Conte. He has moved on to take that Spurs position. So time is of the essence right now. 6th place in the table. That's not a place where Manchester United should ever be. And this is coming from a rival fan. Completely unexpected. They have the talent. They made the transfers necessary to get back to the top of the Premier League to challenge with Man City and Chelsea for the title. And it's completely fallen apart. So been surprised about that. Obviously, with the injuries, kind of changes some things. But Ronaldo, Sancho, Varane, with the talent that was already there, complete shock to me. And it's got to cause about some type of change. So we'll see going forward how long United are going to try to stick this one out. But I've got to imagine that Solskjaer only has a couple of results left before he gets the axe and gets sacked here. So something to look out for going forward. But right now, other than that, usual suspects up at the top. I've enjoyed watching West Ham, of course, this year as well, what they've been able to do. Some other interesting stories as well to watch out for there in the Premier League. Okay, real quickly, I want to give my thoughts on the upcoming MLS playoffs. I know those will kick off here in the next week or so. Seemed like a good finish to the season. Obviously, in the Eastern Conference, the New England Revolution pulled away with the Supporters' Shield. Been absolutely dominant this season. We already talked about Matt Turner. Got a good defense there. Of course, they've got the likes of Carlos Gil, Gustavo Bo, Adam Buxa. A lot of great attacking talent there. Can pour in a ton of goals. They're just a complete team. Bruce Arena's done a great job with them. Got to be the odds-on favorite to win the MLS Cup if they make it to that final. Of course, there are going to be a few challengers in the Eastern Conference. You got Philadelphia Union, who've been great the past couple of years. My money would be on Nashville SC. Didn't lose a lot of matches this season, led by a good defense. You got Joe Willis, of course, St. Louis native back there in net. Again, their international players have done great things. A lot of good young talent there as well. Could have the means to at least frustrate the Revolution and come away with advancing there in the Eastern Conference. Of course, you also got like New York City FC with Castellanos, the Golden Boot winner. Exciting team there. You got Atlanta as well, who could possibly make some noise. But yeah, I would say the Revolution pretty much big favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, a little bit surprised here. Seattle Sounders FC, Sporting KC, began to drop points at the end of the season a lot, and that led to the rise of the Colorado Rapids, who took that first spot in the Western Conference. Of course, they made that trade for what? Mark Anthony Kaye kind of took off there as well. I'll be interested to see if they continue this form and can try to get to the final. My money would still be on Seattle Sounders as they continue to get healthy. Just the dynamic playmaking ability they have on that team and the experience and the pedigree. Sporting KC as well, but of course you can't count out the Rapids there. Also, keep an eye out, 4 or 5 seeds, Portland Timbers, Minnesota United FC, definitely have the talent on those teams if they get everything together, especially on defense, to pull off an upset or two and make a run at that MLS Cup final. So should be a really entertaining playoff. I expect a lot of goals actually here in terms of the teams that have made it into the Eastern and Western Conference. Again, like I said, Revolution, pretty much big-time favorites. I think they will pull away and find a way to come away with that MLS Cup. But still, we're going to have a few challenges in the East, much more with whoever comes out of the West, because I think it's going to be a true dogfight there as well. Anybody's guess as to who comes out of the Western Conference. But still, seems like, again, really good season, continuing on forward. Hopefully we'll get a good playoffs. Up next, before I get to the NWSL final, I kind of want to voice some of my frustrations with the league, with some of the stories that came out a few months ago, mainly concerning the sexual assault, harassment, allegations, confirmation stories that hit a few of those franchises, eventually led to the resignation of Commissioner Lisa Baird from the NWSL. Just an embarrassing turn of events. The fact that nobody at these clubs, nobody within the league did anything to protect the players, that even though, again, these were prominent coaches, they continue to get away with this stuff and nobody said anything or did anything. Just really stinks. And again, just kind of goes to show some of the things that we're continuing to fight through, not just in sports, but just in the workplace in general for women, just all that they've had to deal with. And the fact that, again, the NWSL has had a lot of goodwill built up these past few seasons. They were the first team, to come up with kind of the bubble strategy coming out of the pandemic. They make the move to Paramount Plus. They start to get their games on national TV. Viewership and support continues to grow. And then you get hit with something like this, right? It's just a huge step back, in my opinion. It kind of breaks some of that goodwill that the league had been building up. Relationship with its players is at an all-time low, and it's just a cloud right now over this organization. There's so many great things to talk about. And again, I'm going to get into the final here in a second, but have this stuff continuing to happen and having to continue to fight through it and have ways, and again, get these people out of sports. You don't want any part of this, no matter how great of a coach they are or how important they are to a team. No tolerance whatsoever. The league let their players down, and it was just really sad to see that unfold with multiple stories there a couple months ago within the span of a week. It just seemed like something was coming up every day. And yeah, just a tough break for the league and for its players. Fully support them. And hopefully, again, you just got to hope that we can continue to do better. Honestly, that's it. Until, the right people are put in the right positions, that's really all you can hope for. However, on the good news front, let's get to that big match coming up this weekend, the NWSL final. We know about Portland Thorns FC and how dominant they've been this season, but they are not in this match. It's going to be the Washington Spirit versus the Chicago Red Stars. I really like this matchup. Washington Spirit, it seemed like they'd been hanging around, throughout the entirety of the season, and then finally caught fire here in the playoffs. Trinity Rodman having a heck of a rookie campaign, continuing to score goals at a great pace. Then, of course, you got someone like Ashley Sanchez, who's come up huge. Remember, the Spirit trying to adjust for the loss of Roosevelt, made those trades for Kelly O'Hara, for Emily Sonnet. They have paid off as well. So, again, really looking forward to seeing this team in action, possibly coming up with a huge upset here in the end to get to the NWSL final. Opposite them, Chicago Red Stars, tale as old as time. Can they finally win the big one? That's going to be the case. Of course, they might have a few injury concerns, at least, Kalia Watt. Don't know about her status. Hopefully she'll be okay. Of course, they've got Waldmo there as well, a great talent. Also, again, a lot of experience in terms of playing in these types of big matches deep into the playoffs. We'll see if they can finally come away with the win there. Of course, we've seen, on previous Gateway to Soccer Show episode, I talked to, again, the longest tenured Red Star player. And of course, St. Louis's own Alyssa Mott's going to be rooting for her in this matchup, of course. But again, should be a really good match. Again, great to feature the NWSL here in a big spot. We'll see who comes away as the winner, and hopefully, again, continuing to move the league forward, bring some positivity to it, continue to grow the women's soccer game. And then, of course, real quickly, USL Championships down to the semifinals. You got Tampa Bay Rowdies versus Louisville City FC. Again, in the Eastern Conference final. On the Western Conference side, there have been plenty of different upsets, and it's come down to Orange County SC versus San Antonio FC. Not Phoenix Rising FC, kind of a surprising loss there along the way. And again, just in terms of what we've seen offensively from San Antonio this year, Orange County, pretty balanced team. You know about the Rowdies, you know about Louisville, no surprise there. Excited to see who makes it there. My guess right now, if you wanted me to pick a winner, again, I'm biased. Talked to Lewis Hilton plenty of times here on this program. Tampa Bay Rowdies would be my pick in terms of the overall talent that they've had and the experience playing in these types of matches. But still, again, it seems like it's been very entertaining. Of course, we saw Oakland Roots pick up, a playoff victory there in the first round, kind of an upset as well. We've seen Birmingham, again, with Manuel Cavita, former St. Louis FC captain, doing great things as well. Been great to see all those guys, have good seasons, and hoping at least one of them, some type of combination here, can come away with the USL Championship final win in just a couple weeks' time. And that, of course, would bring me to some St. Louis soccer talk. Now, I can't get into all of the stories that have been going on over the past few months in St. Louis soccer. Don't have the time for that, but I don't have to, because it's been awesome to see all of the great coverage that has been going on back home from a bunch of the different fan podcasts, going around. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys are all probably already watching or listening in on those shows, but continue to support them. Again, you've got the direct fan perspective from the This Is Silly podcast and the Show Up, Make Noise podcast as well. Great perspective from the members of the St. Louligans, directly tied to, again, St. Louis City SC and everything that's going on with St. Louis soccer. Great, hilarious takes along with, information as well. Continue to watch them. Then, of course, you've got some of the other fan podcasts. You got Flyover Footy. Again, my man Phil Grooms, Santiago Beltran, Matt Baker, Stuart Holgren, doing great things there. A lot of information. They really able to condense it down into a full episode for everybody and catch you up with everything that's going on with St. Louis soccer. Again, you got the Lou Boys SC podcast and Football by the Numbers in terms of them, picking specific topics and being able to break them down for you and give their opinions on everything that's going on, not just St. Louis soccer, but soccer around the world. Very entertaining as well. And again, just started watching one of my newer followers, the Soccer Capital podcast. Again, another podcast that does great coverage of St. Louis soccer, but of course also U.S. men's national team, some of the other club stuff going on as well. Make sure you go and check them out. So again, you don't need me in terms of coverage for St. Louis soccer. I contribute where I can and when I can, but everybody else is doing great things back home, and it's been great. For someone who is out of town, again, I don't think people understand this. Of course, you're going to get a lot of support from people in St. Louis, but there are people outside the city who want to stay connected to what things are going on, continue to do that stuff for them, for people like me, so that we can stay up to speed. So again, congrats to everybody doing great work. So again, don't have to get into all the stories that are going on. However, there has been a lot going on. We've seen some rumors with St. Louis City SC potentially looking at, New York Red Bulls assistant as their head coach. We've seen, again, players doing great things overall, continuing with their domestic seasons. Of course, you got to give a big shout out to SLU men's and women's soccer completely dominating the A-10. Again, the men's team moving on to the NCAA tournament. The women's team beating Ole Miss. Again, SEC team. Just been fantastic stuff to see. No surprise, though, in terms of the programs that, again, head coach Katie Shields and head coach Kevin Kalish have been building there at SLU. It's just been really cool to see. Of course, again, going back to that victory over Fordham in the A-10 semifinals, Patrick Schulte, once again, man, if you need someone to stop pound and kick, he is your guy. Just tremendous effort there. And it's been great to see, again, from afar. Plenty of other storylines going down, but of course, I want to focus in on the St. Louis City SC versus the St. Louis Scott Gallagher under 16 and under 17 matchups in MLS Next. The first time that these two St. Louis clubs met up. Nice crowd there at the soccer park this past Saturday. Again, very chilly weather. Understand if people weren't able to come out, but it was very entertaining. You missed a heck of an under 16 matchup, the very first matchup of its kind. And man, did they put on a show. A 5-4 victory for St. Louis Scott Gallagher. I mean, this match just had everything. What really impressed me was the St. Louis Scott Gallagher press. They really harassed the back line of St. Louis City SC. That's what led to the opening goal. Kind of put City off just a little bit. They were able to eventually regain their ground and take the lead. A lot of good, impressive players there on that team. Of course, again, had to check in and see on, Jackson Delkus in terms of just the scoring form that he has shown with the under-16s. He continued it here with a goal and assist, and it looked like City were going to pull away. But again, just what Gallagher were able to do, they were able to stay in this match. And I got to tell you, this kid, I was number 59, Mackay Joyner, hat trick in this match, completely just ran roughshod on the outside versus City's outside backs. Eventually, I think he scored the equalizer, and then he scored the game-winning goal, just a thunderous shot off the crossbar, barred down. I believe it's the one that counted. The rebound was put in for good measure, but that's what led to, again, the 5-4 victory for St. Louis Scott Gallagher. It was really cool. They had some of the kids from some of the other teams there to support. They all rushed the field. It was just a fantastic moment to see. And again, I was sitting up in the press box. I'm sitting around a lot of, again, St. Louis Scott Gallagher officials, and there's a healthy competition here because you got to remember, St. Louis City SC, a lot of those guys played for the St. Louis FC Academy, played for St. Louis Scott Gallagher. So I don't want to say there's bad blood, but there's a healthy competition. There's a lot of familiarity. And of course, as you know, familiarity breeds contempt. And there's a healthy competition between the two. And yeah, in terms of just the first ever matchup between these two clubs, Gallagher coming out on top, it was quite impressive to see. So again, one of the best matches that I'd seen at the soccer park. And I've seen a lot of great matches at that soccer park. But yeah, these kids put on a show and it was just really entertaining. Then you move into the under-17s and still entertaining, but this was a mismatch. Again, City run away with this one. I believe the final score was 6-1. Again, Aaron Hurd, as great as advertised. You got someone like Nathan Thurgeson, who was great. Anthony Foppel, one of the fastest players that I've ever seen. Just, again, absolute menace there on the outside. Helped create a lot of good offensive chances for City. Gallagher, they had their moments, but again, this was just about the quality that City have been able to put together for this roster, the style of play that they have. Again, it was night and day in terms of the performance from the under-16s to the under-17s. So, again, really impressive showing. Again, I've seen some of these guys from afar. I haven't really got to check out as many streams of their matches as I would have liked. But again, in terms of just the advertisement of some of these players, they were true. It was really impressive to see. But again, just a good showing from both clubs. 1-1 at the end of the day, moving forward by both these teams. So again, we're all rooting for it. I think everybody's from St. Louis. We're all rooting for these teams to succeed. And again, it was just really cool to have this type of moment, this display, this showcase for St. Louis soccer this past Saturday. In terms of the coverage of the two matches, unfortunately, I wasn't able to talk with anyone from St. Louis City SC. That's just kind of how it happened. Didn't have much control over it. Hopefully, next time there'll be somebody around to talk to, either for the coaching staff or somewhere else. However, I was granted time to talk to, again, the head coach of the under-17s at St. Louis Scott Gallagher, Ian Henry, about the team's performance there in the under-17 match, just as the season as a whole. Was able to get his thoughts also on the under-16s win. And yeah, just in terms of the night itself, what it meant for St. Louis soccer in general, and just more about what, again, at St. Louis Scott Gallagher, what the club is doing to do. So it kind of turned into a little bit more so of an interview, not just a 5-minute thing. So I'm going to give you guys the full snippet of what he was able to talk about. So here you go. Again, head coach, the under-17s for St. Louis Scott Gallagher, Ian Henry, his thoughts on this past weekend's matches.
So obviously we're very familiar with City, having had several other players here. We know the strengths and areas of improvement of each player. And I thought the first 10 minutes we would have had to manage the game to try and take away what they do well. And I feel like the first goal was probably one that was a bit of a kick in the teeth. I think that took a little bit of wind out of us. I think we allowed at that stage the scoreline, dictate our attitudes and our efforts towards the game. I felt like for a spell there in the the first half that we kind of got a little bit stretched, a little bit panicked, and just needed ourselves to calm down a little bit. And City's a good team. What they do, they're direct. They want to run it behind. They want to stretch the game, and I thought they were able to do that because of how stretched we were. That we were a little bit late to get to the ball to stop the forward passes, but that's football sometimes at the youth level as well. It can be a very emotional game, and I think the lads at times maybe let the emotion of the result kick in. Tim Cashel would have had those guys last year, and I think he did a fantastic job of letting the guys play in multiple ways. I think our club has a history and a tradition of playing a specific brand of football, and that's from the youth level up, the U8s through the U19s. We try and play a specific brand of football, and now the lads are dealing with a different type of play. They would have dealt with it in scenarios last year, but I think City have complemented a lot of our guys with a blend of decent athletes that can stretch the game. I thought Aaron Hurd is a good kid that can stretch a game. I thought Anthony Fopel is another kid that can stretch a game. So their athletic profiles built into a little bit of their style of play. And then obviously we're having guys that have come through our club that have dealt with being able to play under pressure, dealt with being able to play in the half-torn. I think they were able to get through lines a little bit.
So at this point in the season, have you got a good idea in terms of the strengths of your team, the things that you want to work on specifically? This game maybe notwithstanding just in terms of the atmosphere and in terms of the circumstances, but at this point now that you've played a handful of games, could you evaluate your team properly? Can you tell me a little bit about just how you're feeling at this point in the season?
Yeah, well, it's a team in transition. I think last year that group, the 05 group, they'd, for lack of a better term, until they got to the national tournament, they kind of walked the league a bit. I think they didn't concede many goals. They were able to handily win games. I think what we're seeing right now is with so many of our players being taken to go to City, then we're having to fill in with players from situations where they used to play in high school, and high school soccer versus academy soccer is a tough deal here in St. Louis. I know how strongly high school soccer is taken here in St. Louis, and it's very difficult to try and convince a player to give up a high school season to play a 10-month season within the academy. So we were blessed that there were still several players that wanted to have the chance to come in and play in the academy. And to be fair to this group, they've been an enjoyable group to train. I think the attitude and training has been spot on, the energy's been spot on, but they are going through a bit of a transition of facing a higher level of competition, and I think it'd be very unfair of us to look at this type of result and let it define this group. Fortunate to say, but we're still in that transition phase. I think you look at a lot of the games we've played up until this game, and even in this game, we're creating a lot of chances. We're just not finishing them, it's the opposite on the flip side. It's almost like we're giving up too many soft goals right now, and I addressed it with the guys, and they would agree. But at the same time, I think the thing that I look at today's game, despite the result, I was proud of the fight at the end. Considering we were sent off, we continued to press, we continued to take the game and be the aggressor, or be aggressive, should I say, and not just sit back and take the result as it was at that stage. It's easy to then sit back and accept it. I thought the guys responded well, and even right up until the final whistle, I think the whistle blew early because it was getting a little bit chippy. The boys, competed. And I think that was the difference between the first half and the second half, to be fair, was the level of compete. I think the first half we didn't compete as much as we should have. We did in the second half, and again, I feel the red card hurt the game, not just our team. I think it took a little bit of the wind out of the game, which is disappointing because, I think the lead up to this game is, regardless of the result, we're hoping for a good game of football and a competitive game of football. And you asked again, kind of knowing the team, being so familiar with the opponent. To me, it was another game. It's not that big of a hyped game. I know people get caught up in rivalries, but at the end of the day, it's what we're trying to do here at the club is develop players to move on to the next stage. Results are a byproduct if you're doing it right. And again, I just feel like the neutral here, probably in St. Louis, wanted to see that competitive game for 90 minutes like we saw with the U16s. And I felt like the way the second half had started, despite the scoreline, we're getting ourselves back into the game, and it's an enjoyable game again where it's competitive, and it was just the wind was taken out of the game with the red card.
Real quickly while I got you here, can you talk to me a little bit about the under-16s tonight in terms of what they had been working on? I mean, again, like you said, regardless of the opponent, to win in that type of manner is huge for a team, especially one that's continuing to develop. Just get some great goals. You got caught up in the chaos, but they were able to survive and come away with the victory. What did you think of their performance?
Yeah, Thibodeau's a fantastic coach. He's won a national championship here within the club. He's the last coach in the club to win the national championship with the 04s, who are now our U19 academy team. He's inherited a group that probably had a little bit of a difficult season last year. He was with the 06s, or the 07s, should I say, and half of those guys also got taken to go to City. He dealt with probably some of his 06s as well getting taken, so he's done a hell of a job with that group. And again, I think you look at results, I think people will look from the outside, are going to look in at results, but at the end of the day, for me, it's what we've done with, regardless of players getting taken from us, we're still able to, we've got a big enough club that we're able to bring guys in and give them opportunities to compete. And I think what Thibodeau was done with the U16s, I think today was you know, a little bit of a byproduct of the type of coach that Thibodeau is. He's intense. He wants his guys to press. He wants to take control of games, and I think you saw a bit of that today. I think the narrative probably would have been, you know, it's St. Louis City, the MLS Academy team is going to come in and take over and control a game against a team that has had all their players, you know, jumped over the city. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the way that we develop our players and coach our players is that it doesn't matter who you are, who you were. You're on the field, you're going to play in a certain way, you're going to compete in a certain way. And I think the 16s really put it together and showed that they've, you know, it's not an A team versus a B team. St. Louis is a city that's rich in history of soccer, and, you know, there's enough talent in this group to have anybody play in the MLS first team here in town or other MLS clubs within the country.
My thanks to Coach Henry for speaking with me. That's going to do it for this episode of the Gateway to Soccer Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel because it is not dead. Next month, I'll be able to come home for the holidays, and I'm promising to produce 2 more Gateway to Soccer Show episodes. I've already got a couple of guests, you know, in mind who I'd like to reach out to. Of course, also kind of want to reconnect with some people who have been great guests in the past. But feel free to let me know. Who would you like to hear from? Who would you like me to talk to for this episode? Wouldn't mind also, again, collaborating with some of the already great shows that have been being produced in St. Louis, you know, over this year in terms of the content they've been able to produce as well. So, again, let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, again, I'm going to try to pursue some of those ideas that I have. But like I said, hoping to produce a couple more episodes of the show to round out 2021 and to look ahead for 2022. But until then, got my broadcast to work on. Again, you can find me at the nsicnetwork.com. Look for Upper Iowa. Again, very excited to be doing this, moving into winter sports for men's and women's basketball and for wrestling. But yeah, we're coming up to the end of 2021. It's been a heck of a soccer year and looking forward to see how it finishes. But yeah, continue. Again, everybody with the great content. Again, thank you all for the support, for those who've stuck with me, even though I've moved into a different part of my career. And again, looking forward to producing a couple more episodes here in the near future. But again, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.